Now, since we have covered the aspects of communication skills, a few basics of grammars, a few basics of reading, writing, speaking, and other skills, let me now take you into the world of literature. Literature, as everyone knows, is the soul of every country, every state, of every society, of every culture. If had literature not been there, we wouldn't have been able to read what used to happen in previous times. Had literature not been there, we wouldn't have been able to take our minds on a flight and imagine things that are not there. Had literature not been there, our creative faculty would have been wasted. We wouldn't have been able to think out of the box. We wouldn't have been able to imagine. We wouldn't have been able to interpret, and we wouldn't have been able to use a lot of other things that come not only to that are not only there in front of us, that need to be imagined and thought of. In literature comes poetry, drama, novels, plays, and also essays. When we talk of poetry, poetry is the most beautiful art form because it connects people, it connects the thoughts of a person who has been writing, imagining something, and it can be musical, it can be lyrical, it can be an elegy written in memory of somebody, or it can be in any other form, or the most recent form of blank verse where there is no rhyming scheme that the poet follows. Then we have the essays that comes under the prose category. Essays are a progression of thoughts on a particular topic written by a particular author that yields some result or some conclusion. And then we have dramas, then we have plays that are performed on stage, that are also written first and then performed on stage, where people are either made aware, where people are brought together, or where there is a lot of knowledge that is imbibed and given to people through the medium of acting or through the medium of stage. And then we have essays, and then we have stories. That again comes under prose. Essays and stories have been celebrated since times immemorial. Everybody likes reading a short story, a novel, and they are still selling a lot. Despite the age of the internet, people do read. E-books have come up now that people like reading, they enjoy reading, and they derive the same pleasure out of reading that they used to once upon a time. Now, I am here to discuss one story that has been written by one of the most celebrated authors of English literature, and that story is called A Shadow. A Shadow, that is written by R.K. Narayan. R.K. Narayan, I would like to tell you, is one of the most celebrated authors of English literature, an Indian author of English literature, and this author has not only written works, he has also, a lot of his works have been made into telefilms, and a lot of his works have been made into serials, and they have been broadcasted on the TV. A few of you must have heard of Malgudi Days. Malgudi Days used to be one tele-serial and a serial that used to come once upon a time, and that dealt with the Malgudi Days, you must have heard, was a story that was written by R.K. Narayan, and then it was made into a serial, and the children used to love watching that. And R.K. Narayan's speciality is not that he is just another writer. Of course, he used to write in his native tongue and also in English, and then he has a lot of translated work also. His speciality is that he portrays characters. He writes a story, he entertains people, but the most unique thing about this writer is that he brings about characters in front of us. Before I actually begin with the story, I would like to tell you that according to the story that we are going to do, and actually according to literature, in literature we say that they are characters, they are people, and characters and people cannot just be the way they are. We define them through experience, through reading, through evaluation, through so many other mediums. And after the definition of it, we find that there are two major characters in literature. Either a person is a flat character. This is absolutely not based on the physicality of a person or the looks of a person. A flat character, and the second is the round character. Now, a flat character would be a person who would be more simple, more easily accessible, who would forget things more easily, who would talk straight, who would not keep things to his mind, who would be less thoughtful, who would be less emotional, and who would be a person who would candidly communicate with other people, and who would not keep things in his or her heart. Whereas if you talk about a round character, now round character people are slightly more intellectual, slightly more psychological, slightly more thoughtful. They will evaluate everything. They may be introverts, they may not be comfortable in saying their heart out to any and everybody, and they may not be very effective when it comes to communicating their thoughts or their viewpoints. And the round characters are the more complicated characters. That is what we can say. So a round character would be a person who would have gone through some bad experience in his or her life, and that experience would he or she is unable to forget that experience and is unable to move on in life. Whereas flat characters, they are generally they accept what the truth is, they take time, but they overcome the situation and they move ahead in life, and they know how to cope up with whatever little difficulties they have. Now these are a few basic traits of a round and a flat character. This story is about Sambhu, who lives in a place called Malgudi. R.K. Narayan's all the novels and most of the stories, they were concentrated on the place called Malgudi. Malgudi is a fictitious place. It does not exist on the map of India. It is not there as a place, and we still presume, and a lot of critics have presumed, that this place might be some village in the south of India, as the descriptions we read that have been written. So Malgudi is again a fictitious place somewhere in the map of India, perhaps in the south of India. A little boy, an 8-year boy called Sambhu. Sambhu lives with his mother in a place called Malgudi, and he has been living there with his mother and his father, who is now no more. The story opens on a sad note that tells us that the mother has been perturbed and she has been tensed for a while, and the reason for her sadness and tension is that Sambhu's father had acted in a movie and had directed a movie, and his father was paid 10,000 rupees for that as well. 10,000 in that point of time meant a lot. And while the movie was about to finish, the father died, and he left the world, and now is the time when that movie is going to be released, and it has been 6 months already since the father had died, and 6 months later his death. Now is the time when the movie is going to be released. Now the mother is very upset because of this, and the reason for her being upset is she does not want the movie to be released. She probably thinks that the producers of the movie should have this much of consideration, that the movie should not be released taking in mind her feelings. And what are her feelings? Her feelings are that she does not want to face perhaps the screen, or she does not want those memories to come alive because they would disturb her. The death of the husband, everything related to the husband and how everything happened, that comes as a disturbing image. This is the mother's reaction to the release of the movie. Now on the other hand, we have Sambhu, an 8-year-old boy who loved his father immensely and who is so happy about the release of movie. Now that little boy is so excited about the movie that he wants the movie to be released, and he is requesting the mother. As the story opens up, we find that he is requesting the mother to go and let him watch a movie, his father's movie, and the name of the movie is Kumari. That is what the movie is called. And he has been telling his mother and requesting the mother to let him go and watch the movie, but mother is very adamant. He is requesting her also to come along with him, but mother is very adamant. Perhaps she does not feel very comfortable going and watching the movie, and because of the fear of the past and because of the memories that were associated with the father's death, she is unable to take the persuasions, and she blatantly says a no to it. Sambhu keeps persuading the mother, but the mother just does not seem to melt, and she does not take a stand, and she says that you go if you want to go, I'll send you, and but I will not go. Now, Sambhu, being excited, it was the day in the school, and after that he had to go and watch the movie. Now, you must have, you must be remembering some good moment in your life where you were sitting in the school and you knew that after the school you had to go on a picnic, or perhaps you had to go with the family to a particular destination, and that made you happy, that made you excited, or you probably had to meet your friends after that. The same kind of excitement and reaction in Sambhu's voice. There was a friend who used to sit right in front of him. All throughout the day, Sambhu kept troubling that friend, telling him that my father's movie is going to be released. He was the director of that movie. He was also acted. He also acted in that movie, and he was paid money for that. And he kept persuading the friend, asking him whether he would want to come for the movie. But the friend was perhaps not interested in South Indian movies, and the friend said blatantly, shrugged his shoulder, and said, "I would not come to watch a movie called Kumari, and I'm not interested." And then Sambhu again defended himself by saying that this is not just another movie. It is a movie that is unlike other movies. It is a story about a girl called Kumari, who wanted to study further, but her father wanted her to get married at the age of 14 years, which is a very young age. So eventually how she is able to convince the father and tell him, and the father takes her persuasions and allows her to go and study in the university. So that is all the movie was about. Sambhu was so excited because it was not just another movie for him, but it was his father's movie. He went to the theatre, he went to the cinema hall, and he was absolutely delighted. While he was sitting, he did not have the patience to let the advertisements pass that come before the movie, because that was the amount of excitement that he had, and he just was dying to see his father. After all, the movie started. The father came on screen. He was wearing the same attire that he used to wear otherwise. He was speaking in the same manner that he used to do. He was smiling in the same way that he used to do. And Sambhu felt that this was a meeting with his father, and how much he missed his father in these 6 months. He loved to see his father on screen. He loved to see him walk, and he had become a secret rival of Kumari, because the father in the movie was teaching Kumari some mathematics, and Sambhu was reminded how his father used to teach him mathematics, and how whenever he was unable to solve a particular sum or a question, his father used to get angry. But Kumari here was a better mathematician than Sambhu, and she was able to solve the some unitary method sum, and how father was happy about it. And Sambhu also was reminded how the father used to feel so happy about his achievements and the work that he used to do. So while he was watching him on the screen, while he saw the father perform, how those 2-3 hours passed, he did not come to know, and the movie ended. And that was a parting for him. And after the movie ended, Sambhu turned his head and looked at the aperture, the place from where the movie is projected, that small little hole, and that reminded him that now my father is gone and I cannot meet him again. And that was a sad parting for him. Anyhow, he came home delighted, and the mother had been waiting for him on the dinner table, waiting that he would come and tell her the story. He came home. He told the mother the entire thing, again requested her to come along with him for the movie, but the mother was too stubborn, the mother was too persistent, and but Sambhu requested again that let me go and watch the movie every day, and she agreed to it, and give me 4 annas every day to go and watch the movie. The mother said, okay, you can go and watch the movie in the evening, but not in the daytime, because your lessons are going to suffer. And there Sambhu thought to himself, mother worried so much about studies, but she did not know that my father is not going to come again. How much that meant to me, that those 3 hours every day spending in the company of my father would be beyond any kind of study, and much more helpful and much more lovely for me. Eventually, the days passed by, and it was the last day. Every day Sambhu used to enjoy his father's company, go and watch the movie, be happy about it, and come back a little sad. And then finally, on the last day, the mother agreed to go and watch the movie. And while she was sitting in the women's class, she was so happy about the advertisements that were going on, because she was not prepared to see the husband again. She perhaps could not see him because she thought the moment she would see the husband, it would be a reminder of all the memories that had been associated with his death, how he died, and what all had he gone through. So she was comfortable while the advertisements were going on, a complete contrast to what Sambhu had been thinking. And then when finally the movie began, she was in tears. She saw her husband moving, speaking, walking, talking in the manner in which he used to otherwise do. And then eventually there was a scene in which the father used to sit on a chair and read a newspaper. Now this was a similar and an exact scene in which in the manner in which the father had once died. So the father was once sitting on a chair and he was reading a newspaper, and the lady of the house, she came and she asked him, and she perhaps she rebuked him, telling him that you and your newspaper, you will never leave your newspaper. I am going and doing my work. And when she came back, she saw that the father was dead with the newspaper lying on his face, and he was sitting in that canvas chair. Now this scene was happening in a movie, but the father did not die in the movie. He was simply reading a newspaper. But this scene reminded the lady, of what had happened in real life, and she could not take it, and she fainted. She fainted, and there was a noise that came from the women's class, and Sambhu heard it there, and somebody said accident to someone, and Sambhu saw the mother being taken to the corridor, and he thought, perhaps, is my mother also dead? He was in tears, but somebody told him that don't cry, the mother has only fainted. Sambhu helped her become fine, and Sambhu helped her become okay, and he brought a horse cart, and they both sat in the horse cart, and while they were going back, the only last sound that they heard coming from the cinema hall was, Kumari, will you go out or shall I throw you out? And that is where the story ends. Now, after listening to the story, you must have understood I was talking of the flat and the round characters. Flat characters, of course, here in this case, Sambhu is a flat character who knows what has happened with him, who can still move on in life without complicating it much. But the mother, on the other hand, is a round character who cannot overcome what has happened to her in life, and who doesn't want to face the reality, and who runs from the reality, wants to keep things in her heart. But once she faces the reality, once she actually sees the same scene in which the father had died, I think she becomes a little more brave, and that thing can get out of her mind, so that she can start living happily again, or she can start her life anew. And in the end, when we study some story or a piece of literature, what is it that we need to keep in mind? A few things. Number one, when we read the title, we must understand what is the significance of the title in the end. What does a shadow convey? Why has it been called a shadow? Why? Because it is a shadow of the father that is seen in the movie. It is a shadow of the past events that is being cast in the present that might change the future of two people. It is a shadow of memories. It is a shadow of a person. It is the persona of a person. And then the theme, the underlying idea behind what all has been happening. What is the theme of the story? The theme of any story or any poem is the idea behind it, or the main idea that runs throughout the story. So the theme here is the theme of love, the theme of bonding, the theme of remembrance, the theme of association, the theme of family, the theme of life, and the theme of sadness and happiness that comes in contrast in everybody's life. Then we must know something about the author, as I have already discussed, and then talking about the characters. Who are the main characters? How have the characters been reacting? And what was the aim of the author to bring the characters to the forefront, and how and what is required by us to know about the characters. And in the end, also critically examine the entire story. Critically think about the good points of the story, think about the bad points of the story, think about what could have been done in a better manner, summarize the entire story, imbibe the story, and then evaluate it critically. After you have done the critical evaluation, you are in a position to say that yes, I know the story, I have studied literature, and that is what makes your mind also work faster, and that is what is the aim of literature, to make you think critically, to make you analyze things critically, less logically. So that is the aim of literature, and that is how you read a particular story in literature.